All right, so you're ready to dive into some really fascinating stuff today.
Absolutely, should be a good one.
We're talking about vision, not just like, eyesight, but a deeper kind of vision, like how the poet William Blake saw it.
Right, yeah. William Blake, the poet. And we're going to be looking at his ideas through the lens of a lecture Neville Goddard gave back in January of '68, I believe.
Yeah, January 29th, 1968, to be exact. Always got to double check the date on these things.
Right. So we've got Blake, we've got Neville, and the whole goal here is to understand how we perceive the world.
Exactly. Not just with our physical eyes, but with our imagination, and how that imaginative vision.
Plays a part, maybe even like a huge part, in shaping the reality we experience.
That's the big question, right? Does our imagination actually affect the world around us? So Blake, he talked about 4 different types of vision: single, twofold, threefold, and fourfold.
Fourfold vision. Sounds kind of mystical, doesn't it?
It does, but as we break each one down, you'll see how they relate to your own life in ways you might not expect.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, right? Single vision. Neville explains this as the most basic level, the kind of default setting for how we see the world.
Like when you just see things as they are, plain and simple.
Exactly. He uses this great line from Wordsworth's poem about Peter Bell. A primrose on a river's brim, a yellow primrose it was to him, and it was nothing more.
So, okay, a primrose is just a yellow flower, a tree is a tree, a dog is a dog.
Right. Nothing more to it. No hidden meaning, no symbolism, just plain and simple facts.
And if you're stuck in that single vision mode, well, the idea that your imagination can create reality probably sounds like total nonsense, huh?
It would. Because everything's just measurable, weighable, just facts. This is what Blake called Newton's sleep. Everything's explained by science and reason, and there's no room for anything beyond that.
And Blake really wasn't a fan of that limited way of seeing, was he?
Not at all. He even said, like, little prayer about it, may God us keep from single vision and Newton's sleep. He knew there was so much more to reality than what we could just see and measure.
Okay, so that's single vision, the very basic level. But then we move into twofold vision, and things start to get more interesting.
Right, yeah. With twofold vision, we start to see beyond just the surface appearance of things. We start to notice the symbolic meaning behind things.
Okay, so give us an example. How does this twofold vision actually work?
Okay, imagine you're sitting in front of a fireplace.
Cozy. I like it.
You see the flames, you feel the warmth, you might even hear the crackling of the logs.
Single vision stuff, right?
Exactly. But then, maybe you start thinking, my life feels a bit like this fire sometimes. It has its ups and downs, its bright moments, and moments that are kind of fading away.
Okay, so you're making a connection, like a comparison.
Yes, simile. You're comparing your life to the fire. And that's the beginning of twofold vision. You're starting to see a resemblance between two things that are not literally the same.
Right, but it doesn't stop there, does it?
Nope. You might then take it a step further and say, life is fire. My life is fire. Now you're using a metaphor. You're saying that these two things are essentially the same, even though they're not literally the same.
So it's getting deeper, more symbolic.
Yes. But the real magic happens when you drop the is altogether, and you simply see life and fire as one image. They become inseparable in your mind.
So the fire isn't just fire anymore. It represents something deeper, something about the nature of life itself.
Exactly. It becomes a symbol. And this is the essence of twofold vision. Everything we see can become a symbol if we choose to see it that way.
Okay, so anything can be a symbol. But how do we know what it symbolizes?
That's where it gets really personal, and that's where the power of individual perception comes in. Remember that line from Goethe? All things transient are but images.
All things transient are but images, right? I like that.
It points to the fact that everything we experience in this world is temporary. Nothing lasts forever. Neville tells this story about a friend of his in Hollywood who was so excited because his lovebirds had just laid 3 little eggs.
Oh, lovebirds.
Right. And the friend was so happy, but Neville pointed out that those eggs, that happiness, it's all temporary.
Yeah, kind of bittersweet when you think about it that way.
But within that transience, there's a deeper meaning. Those eggs represent potential, new life, the fragility of happiness, all these things. It's all about how we choose to see it.
So even something as simple as lovebird eggs can be a symbol of something bigger.
Exactly. And Neville tells this other great story about Blake, the poet, and this soldier who wandered into his garden one day.
Oh, right. I think I read about that. Wasn't the soldier drunk?
Yeah, he was totally wasted. And he stumbled into Blake's garden, and Blake, understandably asked him to leave.
I mean, it's his garden, right?
Exactly. But this whole thing escalated, and the soldier ended up pressing charges against Blake for sedition.
Wow, serious stuff.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that Blake didn't just see this as a random annoying incident. He saw it through the lens of twofold vision.
He saw the symbolism behind it.
Exactly. To him, the soldier represented his spiritual enemy. Not like a literal enemy, but an obstacle in his path. Something that was blocking his creativity and spiritual growth.
So the soldier wasn't just a guy, he was a symbol.
Exactly. And this is how Blake saw the whole world. He famously said that he saw angels in the sun and heavenly beings in every tree. He was constantly seeing the symbolic meaning in everything.
That's pretty amazing. So single vision is seeing things as they are. Twofold vision is seeing the symbolic meaning behind things. What about threefold vision? Where do we go from there?
So with threefold vision, things get really dynamic. This is where the symbols we've identified start to interact with each other. They blend, they intertwine, and they actually create new images and new understandings.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I'm also kind of confused. Give me an example.
Think about daydreams or night dreams.
Dreams, okay, I get those. Sometimes a little too much.
Uh-huh. Well, dreams are a perfect example of threefold vision. Neville calls night dreams soft Beulah's night, which is kind of a poetic way of saying that it's a realm where our imagination runs wild.
Here, anything is possible.
Exactly. In dreams, our symbols and images are free to combine and create new scenarios and possibilities.
Okay, so dreams make sense, but you said daydreams too, right?
Right. And even just your moods, your feelings throughout the day. Neville says that our moods are essentially dreams in daylight.
So, like, if I'm feeling really positive and optimistic, that's a kind of daydream.
It could be. Because that feeling, that mood, it's shaping your perception of the world and influencing the possibilities that are drawn to you.
So it's not just about seeing symbols, it's about how those symbols make us feel and how those feelings affect our reality.
Exactly. And if you can consciously cultivate a mood that implies the fulfillment of your desire, that's incredibly powerful.
So if I can imagine and feel what it would be like to have what I want, then I'm actually bringing it closer to me.
You're not just wishing for it, you're actively participating in its creation.
Okay, so we've gone from seeing things literally to seeing them symbolically to having those symbols interact and create new possibilities in our minds. Now we get to fourfold vision, the final level. What happens there?
Fourfold vision is all about fully entering into that dream, that imagined reality. Thoreau, the writer, he put it beautifully. He said, "The truest life is to be in a dream awake."
A dream awake. That sounds pretty profound.
It is. And what Neville suggests is that our current reality, the one we perceive with single vision, is actually a form of fourfold vision that we've simply forgotten the origin of.
So we're all living in a dream, but we've forgotten that we're the dreamers.
That's the idea. We're so immersed in this dream that we take it for reality. But the power of fourfold vision is that we can consciously create and experience these dreams.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we consciously use fourfold vision?
Neville talks about this gentleman who had this problem, this big objective problem that he'd been putting off dealing with.
We've all been there.
Right. But this guy decided to use his imagination to create a scene, a mental scene, where the problem was completely resolved and his desire was fulfilled. And he rehearsed this scene over and over again in his mind.
Like he was practicing for a play.
Exactly. And he really felt it. He felt the relief, the joy, the satisfaction of having solved the problem.
So he wasn't just thinking about it, he was feeling it as if it were already real.
Exactly. And that night, he had this vivid dream. In the dream, he was at a party where everyone was congratulating this young man for solving this problem that he had put off for so long.
So the problem was solved in the dream.
It was. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The dreamer then felt this sense of unworthiness, like he hadn't earned this success. And Neville says this because in that moment, the dreamer wasn't just observing the scene anymore. He was experiencing it from the perspective of the young man who had solved the problem.
So he had stepped into the dream and become the character in the dream.
Exactly. And Neville explains that this is because ultimately we are all one being. We are all connected. And in that moment of deep, immersive imagination, the dreamer had tapped into that unity and experienced the reality of his fulfilled desire.
Wow, that's a powerful example of how our imagination can actually shape our reality. But you mentioned something earlier about uncreation. What's that all about?
Yeah, so this is where it gets even more mind-blowing. Neville says that every person we meet, every situation we encounter, it's all a reflection of our own consciousness. It's all us, pushed out, made visible.
Wait, so you're saying that everyone I know is actually just a part of me?
In a way, yes. It's like we are all characters in each other's dreams.
Yeah.
Neville tells this story about a friend of his who had just lost his mother. And the friend had this realization that his mother, as he knew her, was actually an image in his own mind. She was a representation of the material world, of his attachment to the physical realm.
Okay, that's deep. So his mother was a symbol.
Yes. And after this realization, the friend had this dream where an undertaker was paying him for his rooms.
An undertaker paying him. That's a strange dream.
It is. But Neville interpreted it as symbolizing an awakening from this attachment to the material world. It was like the structures of his old reality were dissolving, making way for something new.
So uncreation is about letting go of old patterns and beliefs that are no longer serving us.
Exactly. And it's not about actively destroying anything, but rather about shifting our focus, our attention, our imagination away from what we no longer want to experience.
So if we want to change our reality, we need to change our imagination.
Yes. And Neville reminds us that we can't control the world through force or willpower. He quotes scripture, saying, "Who by taking thought could add 1 hour to his span of time?"
Meaning we can't just think our way into having more time or changing the circumstances of our lives.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that there's a higher power at play, the divine consciousness that is dreaming this world. And Neville tells this story about a friend of his in Barbados who was a heavy drinker and was told by doctors that he wouldn't live long. But the friend lived for years and years, defying all the predictions. And this shows that we can't always predict or control things on the physical level.
There's something more to it than just our physical bodies and the laws of nature.
Exactly. There's this higher power, this divine dreamer that we are all a part of.
So if we are all part of this divine dreamer, then that means we have the power to change the dream, right?
Yes. And Neville reminds us of this powerful truth from Scripture. Only one body, one spirit, one Lord, and one God and Father of all. And then he says, "And you are he."
Powerful stuff. So we are all connected to this divine source, and we have the power to shape the dream.
Exactly. And because this world is a dream, we can change it with our imagination. We can both create and uncreate.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together, but I need another example. Give me a story.
Okay, so Neville tells this amazing story about a friend of his who was diagnosed with skin cancer. And the doctors had tried everything, but nothing was working. They told him there was nothing more they could do.
Oh no, that's awful.
It was. But this friend decided to use his imagination. He started to visualize his skin as being completely healthy, completely free of cancer. He imagined it over and over again with intense focus and feeling.
And what happened?
The cancer completely disappeared. It was gone without a trace.
Wow, so he literally imagined his cancer away.
That's the power of uncreation. By persistently imagining the absence of what we don't want, we can actually make it disappear from our reality.
That's incredible. So it's not about fighting against something. It's about shifting our imagination away from it and towards what we do want.
Exactly. And Neville encourages us to fill our minds with worthy ideals, with noble thoughts. He relates this to the biblical idea of building our foundation on Christ, which he equates with our own awakened imagination.
So we need to be mindful of what we are building our reality upon to make sure it's based on something solid and true.
Exactly. And that's where the power of conscious creation comes in.
So by consciously using our imagination, we can move towards that fourfold vision where our inner dream and our outer reality become one.
Precisely. And this applies to everything, not just our personal desires, but even our relationships with other people. We need to start seeing others as images in our dream, as symbols that reflect something back to us. Neville tells this story about a friend's dream where Neville himself appeared as a symbol of power and wisdom.
So even the people we meet can have deeper symbolic meaning.
Absolutely. And this all comes back to the idea that the divine is within each of us, that our own sense of I am is the very name of God.
It's a reminder that we are all connected to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And Neville encourages us to start looking for the symbolic meaning in everything around us. He uses the example of a fireplace, just like we talked about earlier. What does the fire symbolize to you? What feelings does it evoke?
It's an invitation to look deeper, to see beyond the surface appearance of things.
Exactly. Start wherever you are, whether it's single vision, twofold vision, or somewhere in between. And gradually you can move towards that immersive, transformative experience of fourfold vision.
And it's comforting to think that we've all probably experienced glimpses of twofold and threefold vision in our lives, even if we didn't realize it at the time.
Absolutely. That powerful metaphor that really resonated with you, or that daydream that felt so real you could almost touch it, those are all signs that you're already tapping into these deeper levels of vision.
And Neville talks about the thrill of thrills that comes from conceiving something in your imagination and then seeing it come to life in your experience.
It's a feeling of true creation, of knowing that you are a powerful creator of your reality.
And he reminds us that there's usually an interval between the imaginative act and its manifestation in our physical reality. We need to be patient and persistent.
Exactly. And that's why practice is so important. The more we use our imagination consciously, the more skilled we become at shaping our reality.
And this is what Neville envisioned as the future, this new age where everyone understands the power of imagination and uses it consciously to create the world they want to live in.
Yes, a world where all is imagination, and we are all conscious creators.
A world where dreams become reality.
Exactly. And Neville reminds us that in our eternal state, we are always dreaming. This current experience, as real as it seems, is just one dream within a larger dream.
So it's time to wake up within the dream?
Yes, it's time to remember who we truly are. Powerful creators, divine dreamers.
Then Neville ends his lecture with this powerful quote from Psalm 82. He says, "I say ye are gods, all of you, sons of the Most High. Nevertheless you will die like men and fall as one man, O princes."
It's a reminder of our divine potential and the temporary nature of this physical experience.
So the message is clear. Don't postpone your dreams. Become a doer of the word, not just a hearer.
Exactly. Put these principles into practice and start creating the reality you desire.
So as you go about your day today, take a moment to reflect. Is there something in your reality that you want to uncreate? A dream that you long to bring into being? Look for the symbolic meaning in everything you encounter. And remember, the power to change your reality lies within you.
It's all a matter of vision.
Until next time.
See you then.